This happened today. It's fresh off the press, right? So let's go ahead and watch some of this.
He's a terrific person. Will handle all of the student loan portfolio. We have a portfolio that's very large, lots of loans, tens of thousands of loans, pretty complicated deal. And that's coming out of the Department of Education immediately, and it's going to be headed.
Yeah, so we've seen this too with loans, right? That the student loans crisis is getting pretty disastrous, right? Let's go back to this real quick.
Tens of thousands of loans, pretty complicated deal. And that's coming out of the Department of Education immediately, and it's going to be headed up by Kelly Loeffler at SBA.
So they're going to hand this to Kelly Loeffler at the SBA. So if you have student loans, it's about to get a whole lot more chaotic. I really do hope, and I wonder how they're going to be able to do this. Guess what? They're going to have to put more funding into the SBA. Way to go on saving that money.
And they're all set for it. They're waiting for it. It'll be serviced much better than it has in the past. It's been a mess. And also, Bobby Kennedy, the Health and Human Services, will be handling special needs and all of the nutrition programs and everything else. Rather complex, but that's going to be headed.
Let that sink in. That's pretty darn terrifying. RFK Jr. is going to be in charge of our kids' nutrition programs.
And handled by Health and Human Services. So I think that'll work out very well. Those two elements will be taken out of the Department of Education, and then all we have to do is get the students to get guidance from the people that love them and cherish them, including their parents, by the way, who will be totally involved in their education along with the boards and the governors and the states. And it's going to be a great situation. I guarantee that in a few years from now, I hope I'm going to be around to see it, but I think we're going to see a lot of it. I think that you're going to have tremendous results. You're going to have results like...
I want to be very clear, too, when it comes to this. Donald Trump handing these down to the states is a disaster. Why? Because you have states like Texas, for example, that are trying to implement things like school vouchers. You also see Texas very, very close, if not done with, being able to put the 10 Commandments into kids' classrooms. This is just gross.
Norway, Sweden, Denmark, a lot of the countries that do so well, I think you're going to have a lot of those results. If you look at Iowa and Indiana and Idaho, so many places that run so well, Florida, Texas, big ones, you're going to have great education, much better than it is now at half the cost. And we're not even doing it as a...
That cost is still going to be the same. Let's be very clear. The costs are not going to be saved. There's a reason for these costs, right? And that cost is going to be bared by the people on the states. The states are going to have to eat this cost, right? That means that your property taxes, your state taxes, if you live in Texas, a state tax is coming. I guarantee you probably the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a Texas state sales tax. Sorry, guys. Or not sales tax, but a state tax.
You'll save probably half, maybe more than that. And you're not going to be at the bottom of the list. You're going to be much higher. And maybe you'll be, I will guarantee some of the states will be at the top of the list. They'll be comparable or better than these number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries, the countries that are in the top 5 positions. So that's, to me, it's very exciting, and it's been received very well. So I just wanted to tell you about the student loans and special needs. But we're here for a reason today that is very exciting, and I'm thrilled to announce that at my direction, the United States Air Force is moving forward with the world's first 6th generation fighter jet. Number 6, 6th generation. Nothing in the world comes even close to it. And it'll be known as the F-47. The generals picked a title, and it's a beautiful number, F-47.
F-47. You realize Donald Trump is the 47th president, right? Okay. Just want to make sure.
7. It's something the likes of which nobody has seen before in terms of all of the attributes of a fighter jet. There's never been anything even close to it, from speed to maneuverability to what it can have to payload. And this has been in the works for a long period of time. After a rigorous and thorough competition between some of America's top aerospace companies, the Air Force is going to be awarding the contract for the next generation air dominance platform to Boeing. As you know, was highly competed for. There was a lot of competition. generals, and it's been.
This is just crazy, man. I said to name it at F-47, like, where do we draw the line on realizing, like, how close are we to having pictures of Donald Trump at every street corner? I'm just curious, because it certainly does give off vibes like that.
Going on for a long time. Very, very
I disagree, honest. Oh, what's going on, Z3? I see all the trolls decided to arrive.
tough competition, but this plane is produced.
Honest, why do you think that Trump is the man? Right? I think he's probably like, by definition, he's probably not. he's probably not much of a man. Let's be honest here.
Numbers that nobody's ever seen before. The F-47 will be the most advanced, most capable, most lethal aircraft ever built. An experimental version of the plane has secretly been flying for almost 5 years, and we're confident that it massively.
No, it's not a troll to disagree with me, Honest Elk. We have had a history over the past 3 or 4 weeks for whatever reason, and I invite it. Bring the trolls. We have a history of having MAGA trolls kind of flood into our chat rooms.
Overpowers the capabilities of any other nation. There's no other nation. We know every other plane. I've seen every one of them, and it's not even close. This is a next level. You know, level 5 is good. This is level 6.
What world peace, serfs? What world peace? Where? There's not been world peace. Russia's continuing to strike Ukraine. Israel's looking to invade Gaza again. Donald Trump ended up striking Yemen. Donald Trump has decided to deport people based on their tattoos and everything else. Where's the peace? Where's the world peace? Huh? Exactly. Promises kept? Well, where? The 24-hour ceasefire? Is that the promises you're talking about being kept? Okay. I'm just so happy watching Musk go broke and MAGA is over. Yeah, I agree, Robert. I'm excited for that too.
They say. The F-47 is equipped with state-of-the-art stealth technology. It's virtually unseeable and unprecedented power. It's got the most power of any jet of its kind ever made. Maneuverability, likewise, is there's never been anything like it, despite the power and speed. Its speed is top. It's over 2, which is something that you don't hear very often.
Hey, keep in mind too, guys, all the MAGA that sat there and complained about Kamala Harris reading off of a teleprompter. What's this right here? Huh? What's that? Could that be a script? Oh, that's right. It is a script. Who would have thought firing useless people and saving money would piss so many people off? Honest out. The problem is that he's just firing people off of a whim. And let's be very clear. I'm glad to acknowledge then that Donald Trump is firing people, creating unemployment to go up. Good job. On the midst, by the way, of us creating inflationary pressures via tariffs. Great idea. Trump is doing everything he can to bring peace. Give him time. No, I've given him plenty of time. Julia, I believe we've been over it. Welcome back in, by the way. I've given him plenty of time. He's failing massively. At least his president can form a Senate. We'll see about that here in a minute, by the way, because he's reading off of a script right now. Just wait until he goes off script, then he kind of messes it up. I remember this guy. He timed me out twice. He doesn't allow free speech. I believe you're still talking here, oh glory. You can redeem yourself if you'd like, but if you want to come in here and start stuff, we can go right back to timeout like a child. So Democrats' solution is to just keep spending. No. In fact, it's actually the Republicans, if I remember correctly, who signed the continuing resolution that continued the spending from prior years. It was the Republicans who are continuing that wasteful spending, by the way. Trump is bringing peace. Okay. Yeah, we'll see that. By the way, guys, as we're getting more people in here, if you are watching the stream and you are enjoying the stream, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. It pushes us out to the algorithm and gets us more eyes on us.
America's enemies will never see it coming. Hopefully we won't have to use it for that purpose, but you have to have it. And if it ever happens, they won't know what the hell hit them. A new fleet of these magnificent planes will be built in the air during my administration for the next couple of years. It's ready to go. They've already built much of what has to be built in terms of production, including the sheds.
What's something that Dems have done wrong? Well, I can tell you one thing was I think the immigration policy was a little weak. I think that if we look at the stimulus package or the stimulus checks that Joe Biden sent in his first year, I think those were probably not the greatest thing they could have done. We can also look at Chuck Schumer, for example, not standing up against Donald Trump and not doing enough there. This is one of the reasons why Democrats' approval rating is fairly low. Now, it's not as low as 28%, but it's pretty low. And that is because Democrats are not satisfied with how their leaders our leaders are handling their party. Trump skyrocketed in the polls. There's nothing to suggest that, buddy. Everything is suggesting that Donald Trump's polling is going absolutely into the tank. No matter what he does, you won't be happy. No, there could be certainly things that could make me happy. For one, he could just not go in and, defund the Department of Education and send it down to the states. He could, keep FEMA at the federal level. There's certainly things he could do to make me happy. He could not do tariffs. That'd be a great thing.
We'll ensure that the USA continues to dominate the skies. We've given an order for a lot. We can't tell you the price because it would give way to some of the technology and some of the size.
I can't tell you the price because it'll tell everything. It'll say everything, by the way. Okay.
The plane, good sized plane. This contract also represents a historic investment in our defense industrial base, helping to keep America at the cutting edge of aerospace and technology. Our allies are calling constantly. They want to buy them also, and certain allies will be
certain allies. I wonder who will be getting those. I wonder if Russia will be getting some.
selling them, perhaps toned down version.
Russia's paying me to be in this chat. Oh, I bet it. I bet so. He said Dems approval rating fairly low. Richard, yeah, it's fairly low. It's about 50%. About 50 to 52% for just Democrats. If you look at like the one poll from the NBC poll that was like 20%, that's including Democrats and Republicans. It's not just the only Democrats who were polled for that. But again, that's not to say that they're not low. They are low for what it's worth. But again, you're looking at it in a very narrow, two-dimensional sense. You have to understand, this is the problem with MAGA. MAGA looks at things in a very simple sense, and I get why, right? I mean, look at the guy in office right here, right? I get it. The issue is that low approval rating is because Democrats are not happy with the way that their party is handling Donald Trump. We look at Chuck Schumer, for example, who one day is like, hey, I'm not going to vote for this continuing resolution. And then the next day goes like, yeah, I'm going to vote for the continuing resolution. We can look at the fact, if you want to look at approval ratings, let's look at all the rallies so far that AOC and Bernie are doing that are packing arenas. We can look at the town halls where constituents are very upset about the Republican representatives. So, yeah, it's pretty obvious. People unlawfully being sent back to a country accused of being gang members. We know 5 that were not. Shame on you people, you bullies. Yeah, Kelly, exactly. And that's my biggest thing is a lot of these things. I dove into this and I looked into this particular issue. By the way, guys, welcome in. We got 114 people in here, 3 likes. Can we please get to 10 likes? 10 likes, okay? Look, got 114 people. All you need to do is hit that like button. That would mean the world to me. The issue with this is I looked at some of these tattoos. The tattoos that are being alleged, they're very, very specific for this particular group. Some of the tattoos are vague at best. Okay, they've got like a crown, sure, but it's on top of a soccer ball, which looks just like Real Madrid. And then there's like somebody throwing up like the I love you hand sign. Again, that's used in a lot of different groups as well. So it's kind of difficult to sit there and say that they should be deported on that alone. The allegations are that they are investigating these people. Again, provide the evidence. Provide the evidence. They said they're the most transparent administration ever, but yet they're not providing the evidence. Where's the evidence? You know the Trumpers want people sent back. Elon, go to Africa. Bye-bye, Melania. Bye-bye to... Yeah, I mean, Kelly Quinn, think about this. Birthright citizenship. I mean, they want to get rid of birthright citizenship. Leprechaun, I've never claimed to be a gang expert. Again, though, if you want to clip it and ship it and tell me where it was that I said I'm an expert, more than welcome to. I'm just glad there's a 2-term limit. Yeah, PB, unless Donald Trump gets his wish and somehow, some way they manage to put through a 3rd term, which there is a bill out there for an amendment to allow Trump to be a 3rd term president.
We like to tone them down about 10%.
We don't want legal migrants, send them back. Oh, we don't want legal migrants sent back. Yeah, I agree with you, Demos. I don't want legal migrants and again, I classify legal migrants, by the way, being anybody who is pending an asylum claim too, because what I suspect is going on is they're taking people that are pending litigation on certain matters and they're finding them these creative ways, right? I don't believe it's like, hey, this guy's been on our radar for the past 10, 15 months. And keep in mind too, the interesting thing about this is y'all that are thinking about this, stop and think about what the implications are, right? If the idea is that this particular group had been investigated for several months prior, who was in office a few months prior? Would that not then mean that Joe Biden was also investigating some of these people, meaning he was enforcing immigration policies? Now, keep in mind, guys, by the way, I am totally for getting rid of criminals. And my definition of criminal is not just simply crossing the border illegally. It is a misdemeanor offense that ought to be handled as such, and deportation is a separate subject matter. Now, again, criminals who are violent criminals should not be here in this country. Those particular groups, if they are verified members, ought to be sent back. No problem with that. But the problem is I believe in due process and I believe in constitutional rights. MAGA does not believe in that. Illegal is still illegal. That's great. Again, if you think jaywalking is a offense that deserves being going, in essence, if you believe that jaywalking is an offense that deserves worthy of prison, I think there's something substantially wrong with you there. Let's only let in people we need. I think we need these people. I think I can make a strong argument for it. By removing these people, by the way, there's about 8 million, last time I checked, 8 million undocumented workers, and there's only 7 million people roughly, and this was like about a month or so ago, that are unemployed. So if we removed every single undocumented worker, we would still have and let's assume all 7 million people, which they're unemployed for a variety of reasons. Let's assume all 7 million, for sake of argument, work. You're still short 1 million people. You need immigrants. You need undocumented immigrants. Now, what I would like to see is a better asylum process. I am not for open borders. Let's be very 110% clear. Nor do I think a majority of Democrats are for open borders. Okay, let's be very clear. In fact, I believe it was 2020 when this question was asked. And I believe a lot of them, I think they raised their hands. I'm not sure. I'd look back at that one. But again, I think from my conversations with a lot of different Democrats now is that they're not for open borders. Neither am I. More technology, more staffing, I'm totally down for it. Wall funding, maybe. Not really solid on that one. I think it's really honestly just a waste of money. I'm sure, again, I agree that there needs to be some kind of a barrier, but again, I think that can be done by way of technology, right? So again, not really, I'm like more like 30-70 on the wall. Not really totally there. According to CNN and a lot of media news, there was 0 problems at the border until the year of re-election. No, I guarantee you I can go find a problem at the border. For example, we can look at the fact that the Joe Biden administration got into it with Texas about putting barbed wire at the border. Okay, and keep in mind, Donald Trump's administration is wastefully spending money by allocating our military members to go down to the border when they're unable to actually arrest any individual. They cannot arrest any individual. None. They can't. They're the military. They're not allowed to arrest people. Now, Donald Trump might be trying to change that by doing the Alien Enemies Act. There's rumors that he could be trying to implement martial law at some point to have more powers, but we'll see.
Which probably makes sense because someday maybe they're not our allies, right? But I would like to ask Secretary Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job. He's really been very inspiring in so many ways. And I must say that before he speaks, we have had record people wanting to join our military in the last 2.5 months, literally since this, I think probably.
See, this is the funny thing about it. Y'all's definition of closing the border changes all the time. I saw Brad say, yes, Joe Biden stopped governor of Texas from closing the border. And this is the funny thing about it. What is closing the border to you guys? Is it an actual physical barrier? And to what degree, right? Because if we're talking about a physical barrier,
probably since the election, November 5th, but especially since we came to office. And
if your idea is that it is somehow a physical barrier, then that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Because again, there's holes even with Donald Trump's administration who built the wall. He didn't build the wall for the entire length of the wall from ocean to ocean, from coast to coast. That's not what happened. So if your definition of closing the border is a physical barrier, there's numerous barriers and gaps and holes within the border. So by that definition, then you would have to acknowledge then Donald Trump didn't close the border. And I would agree with that sentiment.
And since I announced Pete, he's young, he's smart, he's strong, he loves it, and they love him. But we've had record numbers of people wanting to join our military.
Exactly, Count Chili. Welcome in, by the way. $5 trillion lost in stock market for the last 3 weeks. This shows more. Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest thing is we're seeing Donald Trump tanking stock markets. And he's also, it's important to note, Joe Biden had numerous records over the last year of record highs on the stock market. Numerous highs. Yet Donald Trump has managed within a short few months to absolutely tank our stock market, tank our economy, cause the Fed to stall any kind of rate hikes or decreases.
Now, if you go back 6 months, it was the exact opposite. You had record numbers.
Oh, it's
of people
resetting.
not wanting to be in the
Okay,
military.
got it.
You have record numbers of people wanting to be in our military, and that's a great honor. That shows you we're really on the right track. So, Pete, maybe say a few words.
Sure.
Please.
Well, Mr. President, this is a big day. This is a big day for our warfighters. This is a big day for our country, a big day in the world. The name of this program is the Next Generation of...
About $1 trillion coming in from business from Apple. Yeah, thank you, Joe Biden. That's called the CHIPS Act, buddy. Good job.
Air dominance. And Mr. President, because of your leadership, your clarity, America is going to have generations in the future of air dominance because of this 6th generation fighter. We've had the F-15, we had the F-16, the F-18, the F-22, the F-35. Now we have the F-47, which sends a very direct, clear message to our allies that we're not going anywhere, and to our enemies that we will be able to project power around the globe.
Or could it be that Donald Trump is the 47th president? Could have something to do with that? Might have something to do with that, right? Not cult-like at all, or weird.
Unimpeded for generations to come. Mr. President, this is a gift to my kids and your kids, to my grandkids and your grandkids. This is a historic investment.
The only reason Trump won was because Elon Musk was up in
industrial base in America.
Yeah, I agree, Kelly. That's the reason why Donald Trump is keeping Elon Musk so close to his pocket, right? Is because Elon Musk has the bag to be able to primary certain Republicans that step out of line. That's why Republicans are afraid of Donald Trump, because they know if they go against Donald Trump, then they are going to be primaried to a living pulp.
American industry that will help revive the warrior ethos inside our military, which we're doing, rebuild our military, which the previous administration did not do, by the way, Mr. President. They paused this program, and we're prepared to potentially scrap it. We know this is cheaper, longer range, and more stealthy. President Trump said we're reviving it, and we're doing it. And then we are also going to reestablish deterrence. Under the previous administration, we looked like fools. Not anymore. President Trump has reestablished American leadership. The F-47 is part of it. And Mr. President, thank you for having the courage to do it and leading the way for all our warfighters.
Thank you very much, Pete. One of the things I will say, but the generals are going to speak in just a couple of seconds, but this plane flies with drones. It flies with many drones.
It's so funny to me when I speak truth. I'm not even really saying anything that's extremely controversial. The trolls in here go absolutely nuts, and I'm all here for it. It's hysterical to me, actually.
You want, and it's a technology that's new, but it doesn't fly by itself. It flies with many drones, as many as we want, and that's something.
Hey, look, most of you trolls in here, look, we've got 319 people. Please do me a huge favor. Hit that like and subscribe and notification bell. Let's get up to 30 likes. We're at 16 likes. The least you could do is hit the like button.
That no other plane can do. So I'd like to introduce, if I might, Air Force Chief of Staff General David Allvin.
That's because your title is opinion. Of course it's my opinion. Duh. That's kind of the idea, that his policies are terrible. It's a subjective opinion, but I can provide actual objective facts as to why I believe his policies are terrible. Case in point, the fact that the consumer confidence is at record lows because of the fact that Donald Trump keeps going back and forth and wavering on what he's going to do, whether he's going to do tariffs or he's not going to do tariffs. He's going to do tariffs, he's not going to do tariffs. It could also be the fact that he's going to go after Canada as the 51st state. It could be that too.
And also General Dale White, two incredible people that I've
Thank
known
you,
over
the end. I
years,
appreciate that
but
16th
I know
like.
really well over the last few months. And would you say a few words, please, General?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, thank you so much for your unwavering commitment to our military. I will say this is a big day. This is a big day for our United States Air Force as well. You know, air dominance is not a birthright, but it's become synonymous with American air power. But air dominance needs to be earned every single day.
Is this the new? I know he fired one of the generals. Is this that guy, the replacement general? I don't know. I know he fired the one guy that was African American and replaced him with this white dude that came out of retirement.
Warfare. Brave American airmen have jumped into their machines, taken to the air, and they've cleared the skies. And whether that be clearing the skies so we can rain down destruction on our enemies from above, or we can clear the path for the ground forces below, that's been our commitment to the fight, and that's really been our promise to America. And with this F-47 as the crown jewel in the next.
Who wants to get? Well, what do you want to debate? What do you want to debate? I can't debate tonight, but what do you want to debate? This guy's dad was his mom? Okay. There you go. You just ruined any chance you may have had.
Next generation air dominance family of systems, we're going to be able to keep that promise well into the future. I also want to thank everyone from industry and within government, our engineers.
No, Z3, y'all, MAGA are the problem. That's the problem.
This shows that American talent, American skill, and American determination are second to none, because this platform is second to none. So we believe that this provides
Welcome in, Marine.
more lethality. It provides more capability, more modernized capability in a way that is built to adapt. This, along with our collaborative combat aircraft the President talked about with drones, this is allowing us to look into the future.
All right, Demoose wants me to read this. I'm an electrician in Aurora, Colorado. Democrats objectively destroyed the working class in Aurora. You can explain to me how it was that Democrats managed to somehow destroy the working class in Aurora. Are you suggesting then that they somehow bust them in? Or are you suggesting that maybe Greg Abbott, it might have been actually, I believe it was Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis that bust those individuals. You can thank those governors for ruining your economy. Good job, Republican governors.
Unlock the magic that is human-machine teaming. And as we do that, we're going to write the next generation of modern...
Imported 200,000 Venezuelans. Who imported them? By what metric? Are you suggesting that the Biden administration ended up giving out checks to these Venezuelans? What are you referring to there?
This enables us to do this. The manner in which we put this program together puts more control in the hands of the government, so we can update and adapt at the speed of relevance, at the speed of technology, not at the speed of bureaucracy. This is more Air Force. This is more options for the president. We say as our mission in the United States Air Force is to fly, fight, and win air power anytime, anywhere. If you want to go anywhere, you have to have a platform that gets you anywhere. This provides the president options from the very one end, which is...
I'm going to go ahead and skip through this air superiority thing.
A document.
All right, here we go.
I was wondering how much are you going to show?
I really want to get to these questions.
They came in with that. You see a wheel in the front? That's about it. Any questions?
Mr. President Trump,
Peter?
80,000 pages of documents is a lot to sift through.
Yeah.
Can you just tell us who killed Kennedy?
Well, I was given the task of
Asking the really hard questions. I believe this is Peter Ducey asking those really great questions. So great. Everybody loves these questions. They really wanted to know this answer. It's so dumb. We've got the stock market tanking and everything else. Canada's sitting there saying that they're ramping up essentially war rhetoric because of the fact of the way Donald Trump is speaking about Canada. And yet this is the pressing issue. The Kennedy question. Are you serious?
releasing that because many presidents have gone through it and they haven't released.
Yeah, and Kelly, about the Trump comes in office, stock market was strong, interest rates were decent, eggs were half the price. Let's be very clear, too. I'm going to debunk this narrative for you. I had it stocked, ready to go for Wednesday's show, but I wasn't able to cover it because of obviously not being here. The thing about eggs is the wholesale egg prices decreased. However, they have said that what is happening is that, and it's decreasing due to lowered demand, is that grocery stores are not decreasing their prices because the theory is that they're trying to make up for their lost profits. Now, we had a solution for this. You know, if we had Kamala Harris in office right now, I guarantee you we would have had some kind of, price gouging law, put forth to try to stop grocery stores from hyperinflating their egg prices like this. Could you imagine the profits that they're making right now? If the wholesale is only like $2 or $3 and now they're trying to sell those eggs at like $8, $9 for every single person. Could you imagine that? Almost like it's price gouging. Could you imagine that? There's an easy way to bring down prices at the grocery store. Put in that price gouging law. Just saying.
And I said, release. We even released Social Security numbers. I didn't want anything deleted. They said, sir, what about Social Security? People long gone, but they're long gone, so I can't imagine. But I said, if you don't...
I agree with you, Matthew. People forget that we are paying these tariffs. It's the people that are paying these tariffs.
You deleted, there's something in there. So we gave Social Security, we gave everything. And the rest is for you to look at, Peter. You're going to see whether
I would get owned so quickly to Moose.
Okay. But we've given it. We're doing it.
I've been debating for onwards of 6 years at this point, on and off, obviously. And I debated on TikTok numerous times. You can actually go see some of those videos as well on my TikTok page. Shout out to that, by the way. And by the way, we're at 32 likes. Can we get to 50 likes by the end of this video? Come on now.
With Dr. Martin Luther King too. They're preparing all of that. They're going to release everything, and whoever else they want.
Eggs are still $12 here. Yeah, as wholesale egg prices decrease, grocers are going to price gouge and try to recoup some of their lost profits.
I mean, we have nothing. We really have nothing to hide. We shouldn't have. When a lot of time goes by, but with the Kennedy files in particular, they were going crazy on them. I don't think there's anything that's earth-shattering, but you'll have to make that determination. In those, it's 80,000. It's actually 88,000, and we have some additional things, as you know, come out today. And for that, you can go to the offices and you can see whatever you want to see. Everything is out there, totally open. The additional stuff is available later on today. You go over to the offices and you can have it immediately, and you'll make a determination.
And on something else, these Trendy Aragua guys.
Yeah, the idea of Elon Musk going into these various offices is absolutely atrocious, by the way. And he was seen going into the Department of Defense today. We kind of really need answers as to that. An unelected bureaucrat going into the Department of Defense, why would he be going in there?
Guys, because of your executive order, they are designated as foreign terrorists.
Yeah.
If ISIS or Al-Qaeda foreign terrorists.
You clearly don't have any disorder or economy knowledge. You mean economic knowledge? I think you messed up that sentence structure. And in fact, you're missing a period there, I believe, but that's just me.
We're operating here in the United States. Cops would probably be shooting first.
I know, Count. I like to respond to trolls a little bit of, it gives me something to kind of argue with. I know that they're in here not really looking for an actual conversation. So, Influencer, I'm all about what we're doing, where you're at here, but offering what we can do to get the squatter out of the White House most important. Yeah, and I think having right now what AOC and Bernie Sanders are doing by going from college to college or arena to arena and just really holding these rallies where these Republicans are afraid of doing town halls, I think is an excellent point to do. I think that we need to start by getting Chuck Schumer out of office, whether it be by primary or something like that. And we need to see a new, fresh leadership. I think we need that populist movement like the Republicans had, right? I think we need to see a, dare I say, MAGA movement on the left, right? We need to see that same thing. And I think it's getting there. I think we're right there at the doorstep.
And asking questions later. And so what is the difference between terrorists, between somebody like an ISIS or an Al-Qaeda operative versus a MS-13 or Trendy Aragua?
Absolutely, Adam.
These are people that focus on destroying people.
Facts. Democrats will never be in the White House again. Mark these words. Okay, you'll be definitely eating those words because Democrats right now, Donald Trump's approval rating is tanking, and he's only 2 months into office. Only 2 months in office. He's got a long way to turn this ship around. Right now, it is not looking good for Donald Trump in terms of Republicans or MAGA. And keep in mind, too, guys, this is the problem, too. Assuming that there is no third term, play here, Donald Trump is no longer going to be running, which means you're going to have a fresh new face to the MAGA party that Republicans may not like, especially if it's a Don Jr. or a J.D. Vance. A J.D. Vance would be, honestly, significantly worse than Donald Trump. Oh, yeah, Isaac, Project 2025. Yeah, this is exactly what's playing out right now, Project 2025.
Their homes, they're not as international in that sense. They're a group of thugs. They come from Venezuela. They come from the prisons of Venezuela. They're very, very dangerous people, but they didn't look so dangerous when the guards took care of the situation from.
This is the other thing, too, is they sent them to El Salvador, and basically, this is the crazy thing about it. We've heard Trump, by the way, in the past talk about sending certain prisoners to other countries that are more harsh on their inmates. We've talked about this here on this show. And this is the same thing that's happening here is he sent them down to El Salvador and treated them like livestock. Again, with zero due process. They never went in front of a court or anything. That was the whole point of the Enemy Aliens Invasion Act, was they wanted to avoid that due process. They never saw one day in court. It's patently unconstitutional.
From El Salvador, and I want to thank the president. He's a friend of mine. He's done a great job. But
they're not citizens, but they're still afforded. Any MAGA who tells you that these undocumented immigrants or anybody here in this country, if you step foot onto this soil, you are granted constitutional rights. That includes due process. That's just the truth. You can accept it or not, and MAGA does not like the Constitution, which is why they are patently against the due process.
I just can't imagine that the Democrats are taking this issue where they want to have them back. You know, so now they have men playing in women's sports. They have transgender for everyone. They have open borders. They have all of their crazy policies that are, I think, 95-5, not 90-10, okay? And their new policy is, let's bring Trendy Aragua back into our country. Let's bring the worst, these are the worst gang members there are. They looked amazingly frail, though. By the way they were handled, it's very amazing. You know, they weren't, when they were in Colorado cutting the...
We don't even know if they are.
This
is the problem with this, is that we do not even know for a fact whether or not they are confirmed. They just said, hey, based on like some of the... We don't even really know. They're just like, hey, based on some of these prior experience, we can determine that they are this or that. We don't even know. We don't even know the evidence against them. We don't know what methods they used. We've seen already a couple of people already being shipped to El Salvador that we don't even know what their evidence was. There was a few that apparently had never even been a part of this thing.
Phone call to the police. They seemed a lot tougher then than they did when they were having their head shaved and they were in shackles. They're tough people. They're bad people. We don't want them in our country. We can't let a judge say that he wants him. You know, he didn't run for president.
Thank you, PB.
He didn't get...
Anybody who says that undocumented citizens do not, or undocumented immigrants have no constitutional rights is patently just not true. Just not true. You come and step one pinky toe on this soil, you are granted constitutional rights, and that includes due process and up to and including birthright citizenship, by the way, as is set precedent since the 1880s. I believe 90s even might have been.
Much more than 80 million votes.
No. Okay, let's be clear. I've heard this argument already be made that it's limited. No more so than it is by the Second Amendment or the First Amendment or things like that. This is the problem with MAGA thinking, is they think that it's like your rights are like completely there. You are right. If you're here on a green card, there are certain rules that you have to abide by, or you will end up being deported. But you are still granted due process. Even with that, you still have to be given due process. So again, it's like this idea that you're just like, you're not given any rights. No, you're given rights. And you may say they're limited, but they're no more limited than you and I, right? Where me and you may not be able to purchase a firearm until we're 18, right? They're still granted due process. That doesn't change. Just because of a green card or whatever, you're still granted due process.
If that happened, it'd be so bad for our country. I won on the basis of getting criminals out of our country that were let in. It was called unforced error. They were let in by Biden, incompetently let in, and let in by the millions, actually. 21 million people.
Thank you for the few in chat. I recognize you guys. Count. I think Isaac, I think you've come in here, and I've seen a few other PB. Thank you guys for holding truth, okay, out there, because this is exactly true. Can you show us evidence that backs your opinion on why anyone would want to vote for Democrats? Also show illegal immigrants have the rights you say, even though I personally know they don't. You don't believe that immigrants are provided due process when it comes to deportations. Let's just be very clear on that. I could go look this up real quick if you'd like me to, but this is just a patently true statement.
I believe it's 21 million. And that's not even including the gotaways, but these are rough people. We want them out of our country. And I won the election based at least partly on that. And that's a big part, yeah?
I don't know if you saw this. Tim Walz is now saying about Trump supporters, and forgive me, I'm just reading a quote from Tim Walz, I think I could kick most of their ass.
Oh boy, he'd be in trouble.
All right, here you go. I'm just going to put the naysayers to rest here. All right, let's go ahead and let me try to figure out how to do this real quick. I'll show you guys because I know you guys are just like itching here. Let me try to. I don't want this shown. Hold on. pulling it up real quick. All right, here we go. I think this will work. This is from Austin. Give me 1 second. Pull it up here. Regardless of immigration status, individuals in the U.S. have the right to due process and equal protection under the law and is outlined in the Constitution. Thank you. Have a good day. All right?
Is there any way to know?
Well, he's a loser. Yeah, I mean, he's a loser.
I know MAGA does not like facts, but there's your facts, boys and girls.
The vice president doesn't play a part, they say. I think Tim played a part. I think he was so bad that he hurt her. But she hurt herself, and Joe...
Yeah, they never read a book, no book. They don't even know what, they don't even know basic law.
I would probably put him at the bottom of the group.
Have you heard that Biden wants to get back involved?
They aren't American. They are American. Some people need to learn that the Constitution or the continent is America, not just the USA. Yeah, I agree with you, Rocky. There's a whole bunch. There's Canada. There's Mexico. I don't know if anything south of Mexico is considered North America, though.
For Democratic politicians fundraising and campaigning against your policies? What do you think of that?
I hope so.
Mr. President, there are several families. Mr. President, there are families from some of the people. I'm with La Nación newspaper from Argentina. There are families from some of the people that were on those flights to El Salvador that claim that they're not criminals, they're not members of Aragua, of MS-13. What can you tell them, and what guarantees can you give them?
They get their due process when they come back on a judicial visa? No, that's not how that works, sir. You can try again, though.
That everyone in those planes were actual criminals, terrorists, as you said.
Well, I was told that they went through a very strong vetting process, and that that will also be continuing in El Salvador. And if there's anything like that, we would certainly want to find out. But these were a bad group. This was a bad group, and they were in bad areas, and they were with a lot of other people that were absolutely killers, murderers, and people that were really bad with the worst records you've ever seen.
What's clickbait, Golf Dad? I think that Trump's policies are absolutely terrible and a disaster to our economy. We're seeing it already play out where we have the Fed kind of stagnating a little bit on their interest rates. We have the fact that unemployment has increased. We can see that, but yeah.
But we will continue that process, absolutely. We don't want to make that kind of a mistake.
Is the U.S. planning to give up the position of NATO's Supreme Allied Commander, and if so, why?
NATO is something that I say, NATO was gone until I came along. In fact, the previous Secretary General, very good man, both of them are good. The current man is fantastic. But both of them said, if it wasn't for Trump, you wouldn't even have a NATO, because we were paying the cost of almost all of the countries.
You didn't have no problem when Obama was deporting them? Yeah. Well, first of all, I was still in high school at that time, but yeah, even then it was probably this is one of the reasons why Democrats called him a deporter in chief.
I said, we're not going to do this. We're not going to continue. You heard us on.
No one sponsors me out of this very moment.
On top of it, we're supposed to pay for your military, and because of what I did,
Biden was very great for the economy, Josh.
Flowed into NATO by countries that just weren't paying. They were delinquent. They weren't paying their bills. So NATO is solid. They're strong, but they have to treat us fairly.
Are we going to give up the?
Because look, without us, NATO is not the same. And I can tell you, I've been having very good discussions, as you know, with President Zelensky and with President Putin. And President Putin will tell you that without the United States, he wouldn't be worried. But he is worried when the United States is involved. And I have to tell you, I've dealt very well with both gentlemen, and we have, I think we have the confines of a deal. I hope we have the confines.
Damus said the federal government has the right to deport any illegal immigrant. Other crimes are irrelevant. They don't get due process on extra crimes. The first one is enough. No, they get plenty of due process on all of them, even their deportation hearings.
Number one, and by far most importantly, thousands of young people, and they're not American.
The only way you can lock up Joe Biden is if you were to try him in a state court.
American people, they're Russian and they're Ukrainian, are being killed every week, thousands a week. And also the United States has paid, because of Biden, $350 billion on a war that should have never happened. If we had a competent president in this sitting right here, that war would have never happened. It would have absolutely never happened with me. And it didn't happen. For 4 years, it didn't happen.
Mr. President, do you think you have the authority, the power to round up people, deport them, and then you're under no obligation to a court to show the evidence against them?
Well, that's what the law says, and that's what our country needs, because we were, unfortunately, they allowed millions of people to come into our country, totally unvetted, totally unchecked. So you ought to ask, did he have the authority to allow millions of people? Did Biden have the authority to do something that's unthinkable? Have open borders where millions of people poured into our country, totally unvetted and totally unchecked, just as you would say. And many of those people were criminals. Many of them were from jails and prisons and mental institutions and gang members and drug dealers. and very dangerous people. Many were murderers. We have 11,088 that we know of murders they murdered. Of that number, at least half killed more than one person. They're in our country. They're in a location near.
I agree with you, Joshua. Trump sycophants are really depressing, honestly. And I got a lot of trolls in here, and I don't know where they're coming from. I've seen this happen many times, but hey, appreciate you boosting my numbers there, guys. You come in here and start trolling. All you're doing is pushing me out to more people so more people can see my message. So thank you very much. Hey, by the way, if you're watching the stream, there's 356 of y'all. If you can make sure you hit that like button, let's get us up to, like, let's say 75 likes. I think we can do it.
You.
Yeah, John Doe. What's up, David?
Country. And it's people that really ran the country. And the person that operated the auto pen, I think we ought to find out who that was, because I guess that was the real president. So when you ask me if we have the authority, did Biden have the authority to allow millions of people to come into our country? Many of these people hardened criminals.
That's not true. If we look at, like, for example, there was, I think, an FBI report that came out that said there was like 400,000 criminals that were not in ICE custody. And if you take that number and you listen to some of the MAGA talking points, I tell them, please tell me it's more than 15 million people. Tell me it's 20 million people. Tell me it's 30 million. Like, I don't care. The more the merrier, because why? It means that the statistical likelihood that these people are coming over here and committing a crime gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. The reality is that they are statistically highly unlikely to actually be a violent criminal. Notice how I said that, because I know how MAGA loves to try to characterize all undocumented immigrants as criminals for the simple act of committing a misdemeanor. I don't know how you would feel. I wouldn't call anybody who jaywalks a criminal. That's just me. I'd say they're someone who crossed the sidewalk at the wrong time.
Top of the line, who have caused tremendous damage in our country. You see them in New York City fighting. Oh
yeah, Isaac, there's that too.
Having fist fights in the street.
Yeah, the auto pin thing is hysterical to me. It means nothing. A president can just simply state that they want to pardon somebody, and that's the truth. And it's the same thing that's going on right now in the courts. The Trump administration is now trying to argue in the courts that the judge's order was not official until it was in pen and writing. That just isn't true by any metric.
With our police, these are tough, hard criminals. Many of them came out of jails, and not just South America, from all over the world. They came out from Africa, from the Congo. They came out from Asia, not just South America, but many from South America. These are hard, tough criminals, and we have to get them out. And a judge sitting behind a bench someplace got a nice appointment. You can't take that away from the people that are responsible. Now, in this case, Marco Rubio has a lot of big decisions to make, and he's a fantastic person, a great man.
I think Marco Rubio is going to be one of the first people that ends up leaving his administration. He just does not look like there's already been some tension between Marco Rubio and Elon Musk.
Our best, I think he has a chance to be our best Secretary of State. He's been doing incredibly. He works so hard. He's gone to so many different countries already, and he's got the authority to get bad.
Jason said, actually is true. You can't forward an order without it being in writing. Everything that I have seen has said that you don't have to have it in writing. And again, the auto pen, from my understanding, was done at the archives because, and this is the same thing that Donald Trump did for all the pardons for J6ers, was because he has to sign all of these different pardons for every single J6er, and he didn't even really sign those. He himself used an auto pen. So if we're going to play this same game, let's revoke all of those ones that he did for J6. But I know you guys don't want that to happen.
People out of our country, and you can't stop that with a judge sitting behind a bench that has no idea what goes on, who happens to be a radical left lunatic.
Do you think the judiciary?
You guys today are denying this New York Times report that Elon Musk was going to be shown a 20 to 30 page presentation about a theoretical war plan against China. Why not?
A judge can make an order, and that stops a military plan. I'll give you a great example of this. For example, what about when a judge sits there and says, hey, I've thought about this many times because I've watched plenty of court cases. What about when a judge says, hey, bailiff, take them into custody? Can the plaintiff then go, hey guys, hey, judge, I need it in writing. You can't take me into custody because it's not a written order. I don't see you writing anything. So you can't take me into custody. Is that how it works? No. A judge says something and it happens, right? And then he signs it. Yeah, again, it's hysterical to me how they do this. Like the judge's order. And again, I had to look at some of the court cases, and it'd be good to go to an attorney who actually has some of this more legal knowledge. But again, from everything I've seen, this is just hysterical to say this.
Just show it to Elon.
because I don't want to show it to anybody. You know, you're talking about a potential war with China. Now, I deal with these people all the time, and I'm dealing with Pete, I'm dealing with these gentlemen on numerous different airplane purchases, and I think they're all going to be great. But I don't want other people seeing, anybody seeing potential war with China. We don't want to have a potential war with China, but I can
Yeah, I don't want a potential war with China, but I like how that but comes in. You know, no new wars under Donald Trump, right? Where is it? Why give pardons if no crime was committed? Again, because Donald Trump showed his hand, and Joe Biden is trying to hold down what little bit he could do to keep law and order in this country and not have political persecutions and lawfare, actual lawfare going on.
Tell you, if we did, we're very well equipped to handle it, but I don't want to show that to anybody. But certainly you wouldn't show it to a businessman who is helping us so much. He's a great patriot. He's paying a big price for helping us cut costs, and he's doing a great job. He's finding tremendous waste, fraud, and abuse.
If the last administration could fly them to the country in the middle of the night, they can be escorted out the same way. Evidence, please. It's hysterical that y'all say this. I think the one evidence I saw that was they flew into a particular country, and the U.S. would not let them come from that country to another one or something like that. And it wasn't that they flew them in. They themselves flew, if I'm not mistaken.
But I certainly wouldn't want, you know, Elon has businesses in China, and he would be susceptible perhaps to that. But it was such a fake story. The New York Times is just as fake as CNN and MSDNC. And
there he goes again, trying to criticize some of our First Amendment protections. Once again, wanting to get rid of certain news networks that are not too kind to him.
Anybody read that story? People laughed at that story. Who would do such a thing? And the first thing I did is I called Susie and I called Pete. I said, is there any truth to that? And they said, it's ridiculous. No, he's over there to talk about costs. You might want to address that, Pete. But Elon was over there today to address costs. Doge, thing called Doge, which you've heard about. Pete?
That's exactly right, Mr. President. You pointed out it was a fake story. We pointed out it was meant to sort of undermine whatever relationship the Pentagon has with Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a patriot. Elon Musk is an innovator. Elon Musk provides a lot of capabilities our government and our military rely on.
Such an innovator that his stocks are absolutely plummeting, and I love it. Yeah, I think just his stocks declining are great. I will say this, though, on the note of Tesla, anybody who starts doing some of these acts of like arson and things, don't do that. That's not cool. And I think that you should be held to the fullest extent of law if you do something like that. Held that same sentiment all the way through and through. J6, BLM, whatever you want to call it. If you commit a crime such as that, you should be held to the fullest extent within that law, including, if it is arson. Hey, you should be held for it. Now, should they be categorized as Donald Trump is saying? That's a whole other legal argument that I haven't thought too much about.
And I'm grateful for that. We welcomed him today to the Pentagon to talk about Doge, to talk about efficiencies, to talk about innovations. It was a great informal conversation. The rest of that reporting was fake. There was no war plans.
Nobody pays me, Glenn. I'm not even monetized
That's
yet.
not what we were doing at the Pentagon.
Not yet. I'm about to be monetized. Okay, I'm probably a day away from being monetized, at least for super chats. And then if we get to 1,000 subscribers, which we are very close, if not have reached already, we just need 1,000 more watch time hours, and we'll be able to monetize our YouTube videos. So yeah, make sure on that note that you hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, and let's try to get to 75 likes, guys. We're at 70 likes.
I might add that I think Elon, if they ever wanted to do that, I think Elon wouldn't do it. I think he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't want to put himself in that position. But if you read what's out of the New York Times, it's such a dishonest newspaper. It's such garbage. It's it used to be called all the news that's fit to print. Well, it's all the news that's not fit to print. They have fake sources, or they don't have sources. I think they make most of it up. But this was a made-up story by the New York Times. I call it the failing. It's a failing newspaper. It's failing, and they shouldn't do that. They really are the enemy of the people.
And
We do need honest journalism in this. We've made such.
It's funny to see somebody like Chris say Elon 2028 when he's not a native-born U.S. citizen, and it's funny that he wants an immigrant to be president.
Big strides over the last 2 months, but we just need honest journalism, and we don't have it. When you have a CNN, you have to watch these people every once in a while just to see where they're coming from, and it's so dishonest. MSNBC is, I think, probably worse, and they're both doing horribly in the ratings. I think they're going to be turned off. I don't think they're not doing any ratings. You're doing well in the ratings.
Mr. President, just quickly on, I understand that your trade rep is meeting their Chinese counterpart next week.
Yes.
Is there anything that they can do to stop April 2nd or to roll back the tariffs that you put on China already?
Well, we can talk, but basically.
What do I not know anything about, Sir Master?
I call April 2nd. I would have made it April 1st, but I didn't want to be April Fool's Day because then nobody would believe what I said, and they do believe me. April 2nd is going to be Liberation Day for America. We've been ripped off by every country in the world, friend and foe. We've been ripped off on trade. We've been ripped off on military. We protect people, and they don't do anything for us. It's just so unfair for years and years. And now some of that money is going to be coming back to us in the form of tariffs. Tens of billions. It's going to be numbers like nobody's ever seen. So, NVIDIA announced today, you saw that? Hundreds of...
NVIDIA announced this because of Joe Biden. All of this talk about businesses coming back to the United States that are tech companies are due to Joe Biden's CHIPS Act, guys. So when you see NVIDIA or Apple or any of these other chip companies coming to the United States, just know you have Joe Biden to thank for that.
Billions of dollars of investment. The biggest chip maker in the world announced hundreds of billions of dollars of investment. Hundreds of billions, not millions, but billions. And they're all coming here. Apple just announced $500 billion worth. They're going to build plants here. You know, they built their plants in China. They're going to build them here. And they're starting immediately. We have...
Absolutely, Notebook. Hey, I'm going to continue to give y'all some free content for now, at least. You know, look, if you want to drop a super chat here in the next week, you know, you might be able to do so if I am able to apply for it.
We have investment, the likes of which this country has never seen, already announced. And they all want to have news conferences. I don't have enough time to have that many news conferences, but I would say so far at least $4 trillion. $4 trillion is coming in. Car companies, very importantly, a lot of the car companies that we're going to build in Mexico or Canada are now building here. Because I don't want cars from Canada. I don't want cars from Mexico. They want to do it, it's fine. But I want the car companies to build here, not, you know, they were building in Mexico 3 plants, big plants, really big plants, and they were going to sell the cars right across the border. We wouldn't have the jobs, we wouldn't have the profits, we wouldn't get the taxes, we get nothing. All we get is unemployment and empty factories. Those days are over. So now those 3 places are going to build here, but many more than that. We have a big one. Honda is building just
someone in chat said NVIDIA don't make chips. This is just a very quick, and I'm not afraid to do this, unlike Rob Noor. I just typed in, does NVIDIA produce chips? And the first thing that pops up, yes, NVIDIA designs and sells computer chips, particularly graphics processing units or GPUs, and chips for artificial intelligence, but it outsources the actual manufacturing of these chips to companies like TSMC. So yes, they design and sell computer chips. The actual manufacturing of these chips ends up being outsourced, but it sounds like they're trying to bring it in-house, and that's going to be done via bringing it to the United States. Thanks again to Joe Biden.
It's a really big plant in Indiana, great state, smart place to build. And we have many car companies coming here. The steel mills are going to be booming, And many other things come with that. But we need that for defense.
Yeah, Jim, listen, I did see what you said. They don't make chips. You're right. Actually, they do design and sell computer chips, but they do outsource the actual manufacturing. So I will correct myself on that one a little bit there. Just a little bit for you. I'll be fair on that. I'm not afraid to admit that.
You know, there are certain things you have to have. You have to have steel. We would have had, if I didn't do in my first term tariffs to stop the onslaught.
DB, the thing is I don't dislike U.S. manufacturing. I think it has to be done very strategically, and it has to be done in essentially a free trade world, right, where we have trade with other countries. The issue is if you were to hypothetically bring every single manufacturer back to the United States, we have higher expenses here. You would still have to bring in raw materials from other countries. So costs would go up necessarily by bringing it back to the United States. And I believe I saw one study where people do not prefer necessarily to buy U.S. manufactured goods. However, it would increase jobs here. But again, how many jobs? We only have 7 million unemployed people. So you can only do so much with that. I don't think you could bring every single company back to the United States and have every single person employed. That's just physically impossible.
Because they were dumping steel in order to destroy our steel plants. If I didn't do 50% and even 100% in certain cases tariffs on steel, you wouldn't have a steel plant in the United States. And Biden was unable to get rid of those tariffs because they threw off so much money that his numbers, which didn't work anyway.
Wait. This is a lie by Trump. Joe Biden continued Donald Trump's tariffs and didn't get rid of them. He backed it, actually. A lot of people criticize Joe Biden for continuing Donald Trump's tariffs. So it wasn't that he didn't want to get rid of them. He continued them extensively.
His numbers were terrible. What he did, the way he spent money was so horrible. and what he allowed to happen to energy. That's the other thing. Energy is going to be like it's never been before. Mr. Vice President is here. Do you have anything to say while you're here?
No, sir.
Good Vice President.
I'm just here to watch the show, sir.
Okay.
I think airplanes are pretty cool, so I wanted to check this out.
Airplane's cool. It is cool.
Is there anything that China can do to take off the trade war at this point, though?
Well, I'll be speaking to President Xi.
JCSE, prices of everything went up under Biden. They also went up under Donald Trump. That is just how inflation works. The rate at which it went up and the rate at which it went down is where we get CPI from. And it went up to about 9%, which is the CPI number, I believe in 2022. And it dropped down to 2.2% under Joe Biden. Under Joe Biden, it dropped significantly. The rate at which it goes up, because again, inflation is compounding, so it's going to continue year over year. What that CPI number is typically like year over year. And so what we saw was it was at 9% year over year, and then it went down to 2% year over year. Basically, CPI is the number that every economist uses, at least that I can think of, more mainstream. And so, yeah, 2.2%. Joe Biden reeled in inflation and handed it to Trump. And then Trump just decided to no, I'm just going to go ahead and implement tariffs. Yeah, good job. You just destroyed the good economy we did have going.
Have a great relationship with him. We're going to have a very good relationship. But we have a $1 trillion deficit because of Biden with President Xi. More than that. I mean, I've heard $1.2 trillion.
Hey, Gun Patriot said, I understand that we're hearing all this, but not everything is being told to us. So let's just wait and see before making wild claims. Listen, I'm not going to wait and see. I'm going to assess it as it goes and see what is going on. If you have this future crystal ball that you think it's going to get better, let me know. But all the writing on the wall right now suggests it's going to get pretty bad.
We have a deficit. And I've explained that to President Xi.
It was great under Biden, Dwarven. And Donald Trump is proving it right now.
To Mexico and then cross the border and, killing. I think the number is much higher than the 125, 115. I think it's closer to 300,000 people a year. And so that's a problem. But they have a
absolutely zipping
surplus against the United States, and we don't want that.
Mr. President, why do you want to control Ukraine's power plant?
Members of the States have come to you asking for exemptions on tariffs. Is that something that is under consideration by you?
Well, people are coming to me and talking about tariffs, and a lot of people are asking me if they could have exceptions. And once you do that for one, you have to do that for all. So, I mean, generally, I did something interestingly during 2 weeks ago. I gave the American car companies a break because it would have been unfair if I didn't. And everybody said, oh, he changed his mind on tariffs.
The reason why he did that was because auto manufacturers said that with the retaliatory tariffs by Canada, that they would have to shutter their doors. Because the way that car manufacturers work is they send them down from Canada into the U.S., back into Canada, down to the U.S., and they even go down to Mexico, I believe, at some point. So we have the process of a car being made going basically to like 3 different countries. And so by Trump doing a retaliatory tariff, with Trump doing a tariff and then Canada doing a retaliatory tariff, it essentially stalls the car manufacturer. Like, bro, we're just going to have to stop manufacturing until this gets solved, because they predicted it would be solved pretty quickly. Because, again, they would have to pay for the import all the way to Canada, and they had to pay for it to come back. It would be insane.
I didn't change my mind. I helped our, sort of big 3, big 4. I helped some of the American companies. And instead of taking it properly, they said, oh, he changed it. I don't change, but the word flexibility is an important word. Sometimes there's flexibility, so there'll be flexibility. But basically...
Anton, I know you're probably trolling a little bit, but there are certainly MAGA out there. I believe we saw one representative that already said that Trump was sent by Jesus. Or not a representative. It was actually somebody on... I think it was actually not thinking about it. It was somebody on TikTok, but still, there are people out there that do believe that Trump was sent by Jesus. It's a pretty wild claim.
It's reciprocal. So that if China's charging us 50% or 30% or 20%, and I don't mean China, I mean anybody.
The economy was very not good under Biden. Necessity prices were almost unaffordable for middle and lower class people. Sure, inflation existed under Biden. I'm not ignoring that. There's a reason why it was up, and that was primarily in part due to Donald Trump and his terrible handling of C-19 and his massive spending packages.
Any country, Canada. Nobody knows that Canada's charging our dairy farmers. They have 270% tariffs. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. They have up to 400%. They have a couple of tariffs at 400%. Nobody knows that. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah, they're quota tariffs, by the way. That means you have to meet a certain quota before it kicks in.
And remember, with Canada, we don't need their cars, we don't need their lumber, we don't need their energy, we don't need anything from Canada, and yet it costs us $200 billion a year in subsidy to keep Canada afloat. So when I say they should be a state, I mean that. I really mean that, because we can't be expected to carry a country that is right next to us on our border. It would be a great state. It would be a cherished state. the taxes for Canadian citizens would go down in less than half. They don't spend money on military because they think we're going to protect.
There he goes again, talking about wanting to make Canada the 51st state.
Them. There are many things that they do, like icebreakers. They want us to provide icebreakers for them. Oh, that's wonderful. So, the Canada, they're very tough traders too. I want to just tell you, all the people, they're tough traders. They trade very tough. And, the expression I use is, some people don't have the cards. I used that expression about a week and a half ago, right? Somebody was negotiating who didn't have the cards, who's now, I think, saying that he wants to do it, and I think we're going to have a big deal on that. Very special something. We got to make a deal on that. But Canada has been a very nasty negotiator against the United States, took advantage of the United States for a long time. But nobody knows that they were getting 270% tariffs on dairy products.
Yeah, Billy's saying Donald Trump and Elon Musk should be tried for treason. I'm not someone that would normally ascribe to that. I think that we should go through the proper methods. I think that if you believe that he's been guilty of that we should go through and do an impeachment. I actually do think that an impeachment is probably properly in place. I think there's numerous violations of the Constitution. Under any circumstance, Trump is making Nixon look great. I'll put it that way. He's making Nixon look fabulous.
I don't think I've heard you say this in all of the talk about Canada becoming the 51st state. Are you concerned that if they became the 51st state, they would be a very, very blue state? Very, very big and very, very blue.
No, there might be, but it would, you have that artificial line that goes, that straight artificial, that looked like it was drawn by a ruler. Somebody with I don't mean a ruler like a king, I mean like a ruler, this way. And just.
Oh, I want to play this segment. This is what I had on my TikTok earlier. Listen to this word salad, all right? I had to put it on slow speed. Sorry, guys. Listen to this.
You have that artificial line that goes, that straight artificial, that looked like it was drawn by a ruler. Somebody with I don't mean a ruler like a king, I mean like a ruler, this way. And it's just an artificial line that was drawn in the sand or in the ice. And can I tell Peter, just, you add that to this country, what a beautiful landmass, the most beautiful landmass anywhere in the world. And it was just cut off for whatever reason. It would be great. Now, is it liberal? Maybe, but a conservative until I got it.
This is word salad. It's like a ruler, not that ruler, like a beautiful landmass. Like, it would be great, like a line of sand or ice, It's just like crazy to me, man. Just crazy to me. They lost that war. I bet you can't even tell us what Nixon did. It was the Watergate Hotel issue where he ended up allegedly having some staffers, I believe it was, that broke into the Watergate Hotel and secretly recorded a few of his political opponents, I believe it was.
Involved, because I don't care who wins up there. I frankly probably would do.
If you're asking me to name every little detail of the Nixon case, I mean, I'm not going to be able to tell you every little detail,
just
but
yes.
Just
a little while ago, before I got involved and totally changed the election, which I don't care about. Probably it's to our advantage, actually. But the conservatives against, I call them
right now, we absolutely would have. Oh, look, he just about to. Hold on.
Governor, to our advantage, actually. But the conservative was leading against, I call him Governor Trudeau.
Governor Trudeau. Trump is literally trying to provoke Canada into war. I'm convinced at this point. It's what it certainly seems like. Certainly seems like Trump is trying to poke the bear and trying to, really think he's going to speak it into existence. He did it with the Gulf of Mexico, and he's going to try to do it here with Canada.
Conservative was leading by 35 points. So, so I don't know about that. I think Canada is a place like a lot of other places. If you have a good candidate, the candidate's going to win.
And I don't know if you've seen this, but the two astronauts that you just helped save from space, they didn't get any overtime pay for all that extra time. They got $5 a day.
Canada exists because they are a sovereign country, by the way. Just a heads up on that. And listen to this silly claim by Peter Doocy, who's asking all those hard questions of President Trump.
Per diem. For 286 days, that is $1,430 in extra pay. Is there anything the administration can do to make them whole?
Well, nobody's ever mentioned this to me. If I have to, I'll pay it out of my own pocket, okay? I'll get it for them.
We heard this before, that Donald Trump is going to pay for it out of his own pocket. I doubt it.
I like that. I'll pay it right out of my... Is that all? That's not a lot. For what they had to go through. And I want to thank Elon Musk.
Yes, Spartacus, thank you guys. Listen, we are getting a little close to the end of this video. Please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Let's get us up to 100 likes. I thank you guys.
By the way, because think if we don't have him. You know, there's only so long, even though they're in the capsule up there, that the body starts to deteriorate after 9 or 10 months and gets really bad after 14, 15 months with the bones and the blood and all the things that you've been reporting.
Right, Marcy. Canada exists because of French and British colonization. Yeah, again, and they have their sovereign borders. Could you imagine what would happen if Mexico was like, yeah, we're going to make Canada a part of Mexico, or Canada. Mexico was like, we're going to make the U.S. part of Mexico again. No, they wouldn't do that, right? But you can imagine Trump would be very upset. And keep in mind, MAGA, too, when they talk about Ukraine, they always mention this. I want you guys to keep this in mind. Keep this in your back pocket, by the way. When MAGA is sitting there complaining about how NATO was up against Russia's borders, what are we doing right now by putting our military troops, helicopters? We've now got like a tanker that's going up next to the border of Mexico. And we've already labeled cartels as T groups. I call them T groups. Sorry, TikTok language. What is that then? Is that not a provocation to Mexico? So again, they're very wholly inconsistent about this logic, by the way, about NATO aggression.
Reporting on very well. And if we don't have Elon, they could be up there a long time. Who else is going to get him?
I don't know,
And
NASA?
I just want to thank him. He's going through a lot, what they're doing to him.
And again, it's kind of hysterical to me. Yeah, Kelvin, Gulf of Mexico, not Gulf of America. I'm calling it Gulf of Mexico. Get over it. I'm sorry that facts don't care about your feelings. So the funny thing is like Donald Trump, you know, he's talking about who's going to get them. It's because Elon Musk is one of the largest recipients of welfare in this country. His companies have received billions in federal dollars.
And these people are going to be caught, and they're going to be caught, and they're going to be prosecuted. And from what they tell me, I see this just by watching your program.
I agree, Notebook. It's insane.
And reading the news, but from what they tell me, they could get 20 years in jail, and they'll get it. I'll tell you, there's going to be no leniency, and there'll be no pardons. I can tell you.
Of course, that's kind of obviously you're not going to give pardons, but we know that you're going to give pardons to the J6ers, right? That's what you're going to do. You're going to give pardons to the people who harmed our police officers. That's who we're selective when we hold the rule of law here, right?
And you said this morning 20 years in jail, and then maybe you said this morning 20 years in jail, and then maybe they'll go to one of these prisons in El Salvador. Do you think with the way that the judges have been issuing injunctions, it would be easier or harder to send these Tesla domestic terrorists to a jail in El Salvador than these MS-13 or Trendy Aragua guys?
Well, I view these people as terrorists just like others. When I looked at those showrooms burning and those cars. Not one or two, like 7, 8, 10 burning, exploding all over the place. These are terrorists. You didn't have that on January 6th, I can tell you. You didn't have anything like that on January 6th, which is sort of amazing, because on January 6th, the Democrats were talking.
Oops, muted. Thank you, guys. I noticed that Bob Marley is in chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate you putting that. Almost every president has done unfavorable pardons. It's pointless to compare them. Yes, but the problem is that the pardons are vastly different. I do think there is a level to a degree, which is one is more hypocritical than the other. For example, Donald Trump saying that Republicans that are saying they back the blue and everything else, they stand for the rule of law and everything else. Clearly they don't. If we look at Joe Biden, I think pardoning his sons, you could say that's, not fair. Well, I get that. But I think that just like Joe Biden has the right to pardon people, so does Donald Trump. Do I wish that presidents did not really have pardon powers? That's neither here nor there. I think that the president having too much power, right, and we're starting to see that kind of happen right now where they're trying to funnel as much power to the executive branch. I'm not in favor of that. I would like to see it be, again, 3 separate but equal branches of government. And when you have an unequal balance on there and you have the executive being able to do pardons like that, I'm not a huge fan of it. I think that that's something that really should be decided more so by the Supreme Court or by a federal judge or something like that, who's able to assess all those facts and then, give a pardon if need be, right? And again, there really shouldn't be a pardon at that. But again, that's a particular right that the president is allowed to do.
Nobody was killed other than a very
Finn, just so y'all are aware, I voted for, let's be very clear, I voted for Kamala Harris this election. I used to be a conservative, and I have since left the Republican Party because the Republican Party is just going the wrong direction. The Republican Party has absolutely moved as far right as they possibly can. And I am now, for the foreseeable future, probably going to be a Democrat, probably for a long time. I don't see the Republican Party absolutely coming back to, I guess you could say, like a sane level. MAGA is here to stay for a while. Why did I vote for her? Because I think Kamala Harris had the more moderate, she was one of the most moderate Democrat candidates out there. One of the most. She was big on tax breaks, which was great. I believe there was the child tax credit that she was looking at trying to do. We can look at things that Trump was doing that she simply just wouldn't do based on her performance under Joe Biden, namely which is the tariff policies. I believe that she would have continued some of that good momentum from Joe Biden. We see now that Donald Trump has absolutely upturned that right now. Are you still on here crying and you don't think the liberals are as far left as they can be? Yeah, I don't think Kamala Harris was and is a very moderate candidate. And that was her downfall, was because she didn't appeal to the core Democratic base. Further, it's undeniable that the Republicans have absolutely moved further right. You can look at the fact that Donald Trump has already talked about taking over Greenland, Canada, Mexico, which is imperialistic. You can look at some of his nationalistic tendencies that he himself has claimed to do. They have absolutely moved way further right. You can look at the obsession of the authoritarian-like behavior by Republican representatives, putting Trump on Mount Rushmore, wanting to sit there and put him in place for a third term, wearing Trump paraphernalia everywhere they can. It's pretty crazy.
Beautiful young woman, Ashley Babbitt. Nobody was killed. And you look at what's going on now with these terrorists. These are terrorists, and that's an organized event. Take a look at their signs. Take a look. They're all made by the same sign company.
Who was the person behind the signs, Trump?
A nice, expensive job. Now, these are the people.
Big thank you to guys. Y'all have gotten me to 110 likes. Y'all rock. I appreciate everyone.
People that finance it are, in my opinion, in just as big a trouble as the people that are setting the match and setting the fires. So we'll see. It's under very serious investigation by the FBI and by the Justice Department. These people are terrorists. Okay.
Mr. President, you mentioned a deal with Ukraine.
Mr. President, what do you say to American military families who are seeing Elon Musk at the Pentagon today, are hearing about Defense Department cuts, and their thoughts are immediately going to the safety of their loved ones?
Yeah, Donald Trump has ended up losing numerous, what's the word I'm looking for? Donald Trump has, that's weird. I don't know what's going on here. Donald Trump has ended up firing numerous military veterans. When we talk about like the layoffs, they've absolutely affected our veterans. Even though, Republicans love their military service members, we can see how well that's really working out. So, yeah, I think it's pretty hysterical to see that working the way it's working. And by the way, guys, we are officially at 1,000 subscribers. Let's go. Every single one of you guys, I want to take this moment. Thank you so much. That's what I was trying to do over here. I was trying to see. You guys rock. We finally did it. Round of applause to every single one of you guys. Thank you so much. All right, let's continue going.
Who are currently deployed.
Well, we're making our country strong. And when they see a thing like that and they hear that story about Elon and China, what they should do is realize that the New York Times is a corrupt institution, because I think they're the ones. They knew that story wasn't true. Nobody believed that story. People that
appreciate it. I'll lower it down a little bit.
They laughed when they heard the story. Nobody believed it. That the Pentagon was giving him a briefing on what war with China would look like. and he has business. No, they made that up because it's a good story to make up. They're very
Yeah, Notebook. And keep in mind, too, that Donald Trump ended up losing at this, I believe it was federal court over the transgender ban in the military. They even were sitting there and like, it was hilarious because the DOJ was like, so they can still perform fitness tests, right? Yes. So, and I had to look at the exact wording, but it was like, they can go in and do this, right? And they're like, yeah. Like, so what's the reason for the ban if not for the fact that they're transgender? And they're like, oh, and they're just kind of doing that, got a little upset. Yo, Tia, thank you for that second like and sub. I appreciate it. Where is the less inflation right now? Yeah, there's no less inflation. Inflation is going to be up, and I expect it to continue to go up under the Trump administration with these tariffs.
Dishonest people. I have it with the Times, and you'll see more and more of it.
Yeah, Tata, I don't know on who said there's no inflation. Inflation is going up.
Organization. But a story like that is made up. It's total fiction. And I just wanted to make sure. I called up Chief of Staff and I called up Pete. And I said, is there any truth to that? Absolutely not. He's there for Doge, not there for China. And if you ever mention China, I think he'd walk out of the room. He wouldn't take it anyway. So it's just a made up story. Nobody's taking better care of them.
Yeah, lowest stock market in years. Yeah, it's the stock market is decreasing, and they're trying to like resuscitate it by saying, "Oh, it's a discount, guys." Yeah, it's a discount for the billionaires who can afford to buy all of those stocks. It's the only reason why it's going up a little bit right now, not recovering as much. If you're rich, you're going to enjoy being MAGA. All you poor MAGA are going to be mad as hell. Yeah, Wayne, exactly. These poor MAGA are like gonna, and it was funny. I think we just saw it today on Twitter where they were saying that they were going to lose some of the Social Security checks, and that if you complain, that you're probably a far leftist, which tells you everything you need to know. They're saying the quiet part out loud. They're going to go after Social Security.
Military. One of the things that I know that Pete's doing is he's talking about.
Doge is doing amazing. Doge is doing terrible at the federal level, but I know you're referring to crypto bro stuff.
A lot of the civilian staff, and we're going to get them other jobs. We're going to have a lot of jobs in this country, but we don't want to have wasteful jobs. We want to have meaningful jobs. And those were wasteful jobs. Those are jobs that not only...
I'll tell you the biggest wasteful job is Doge. I think Doge is the most wasteful job in the federal government right now. He's an unelected bureaucrat who has a vested interest in trying to make sure that they do not investigate his companies. And he's going into several companies that have had open investigations on his companies. And I think Doge is absolutely just a laughing stock and a wasteful thing. And it's going to take years to rebuild what Doge absolutely crumbles, which is why I say it's wasteful. It may not be wasteful in and of itself at this very exact moment, but it's wasteful in the long view, in the long term, right? Because he's canceling contracts that are inevitably going to have to be redone, right, at some point or another, which is time and resources that could have just been avoided in the first place. Thus, wasteful.
Only military, but
and that too, Anders. Trump selling Teslas. I mean, you might as well at this point put Tesla, like a little Tesla sign, as a brand on the White House. It's like, hey, proudly sponsored by Tesla. I mean, it's just insane.
You take a look at Department of Education. I've never seen so many buildings with the names on it. You go.
Thank you so much, Lee. I appreciate the subscription.
Department of Education, and they're empty. The people don't show up. You know why? Because they have other jobs.
100% no, but GOP be selling out for President Musk.
They're doing something. And we have a lot of great people, but we have to move.
Big Ten said, as of March 12th, the U.S. inflation rate measured by the Consumer Price Index is at 2.8% for the 12-month period ending in February, down slightly from 3% reported in January. I think I did hear about that. And again, it's funny because this is the thing that we see too a lot with MAGA is when they find that one positive thing, they're like, oh, look, Donald Trump's doing a good thing. But then when it's bad, MAGA's like, look, think about it in the hindsight, guys. Look, think about it in the hindsight. Don't worry about it right now. And just another example of them being wholly inconsistent.
Move that back to the States. We're going to make our country strong, and we're going to get people much better jobs. Because we have companies moving into our country, the likes of which we've never seen before. Nothing like this has happened.
Right, and I thought Republicans were against corruption. I also thought Republicans were against unelected bureaucrats, but I guess they make an exception for good old Elon, right?
It's automatic. They don't want to pay the tariffs. How do you get?
Right,
how
Wayne.
do you avoid paying the tariffs.
They'll be crying real
the building
soon when
plant
those
in the United States.
inflation goes up.
It's a beautiful thing.
Hey,
to
Michael,
see.
I appreciate it.
So far, I would say $4 trillion. Nobody's ever heard of them. No country's ever heard of them.
What is he saying? 4 trillion?
I would say 4, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I see it. So far, I would say $4 trillion. Nobody's ever heard of them. No country's ever heard of numbers like that. $4 trillion, and those are the best ones. The biggest, best chip maker in the world.
Chip.
I'm not a fan of the CHIP Act, where you give billions of dollars away to companies that don't need it, and it won't bring them here.
Wait. Oh my gosh. Did he seriously sit here and say that? He was sitting there saying, oh, chip manufacturers. And he just listed off like NVIDIA, Apple, all of those people that are coming to the United States. And now he's saying that the CHIPS Act isn't going to bring anybody here? What? Wow.
I'm giving nothing away. All they're doing is coming here. They're building because they want to avoid.
The CHIPS Act is still... Wait. I'm not giving anything away. The CHIPS Act is still in place, which means that, as far as I understand, they're still giving these subsidies out because they're duly obligated to give these subsidies out.
Remember this on the tariffs, too, because that's going to be, Liberation Day, April 2nd.
Yeah, this Liberation Day, that actually means liberation, where you put you say, okay, hey, I'm being tied to the economy and watching the economy tank. Yeah, Liberation Day is probably going to be a pretty gnarly day, even though we'll see, because what Trump likes to do is on the weekends, he likes to do like a Friday or Saturday golf game, and then all of a sudden then implement tariffs and then revoke them pretty quickly thereafter.
It's reciprocal.
Exactly, Callie. They're going to get more and more assets.
We charge them. So somebody say, well, how much are the tariffs? Very fair. If India, as an example, has been very bad to us on tariffs, they charge 100%, 200%.
100%, 200%.
Whatever they charge. Now, Europe just announced they're lowering the tariffs on cars. We charge, like a joke, 2.5%. That's what this country charges. Europe just announced that they're reducing their tariffs on cars to 2.5%. It's nice. But they also have non-monetary tariffs, where they make it impossible for the cars to get in even without the dollars on them and the dollar signs. It's called a non-monetary tariff, where they put on controls where no matter what happens, because they don't want cars, they don't want the American car in their market. And yet they send us millions of cars. They send us big agriculture. They don't want our agriculture. They don't want anything from us. European Union's very tough. But now it's fair. So whatever they do to us, we do to them.
Mr. President.
I'm waiting for our inflation's about to go through the roof. I'm about to give me some chickens, boys. I'm about to get some chickens. I'm going to just get a little rooster, a little hen house outside. We're just going to start making some eggs, okay? Get some pigs out there for bacon. Get us some livestock. We're going to be Farmer Joe, Farmer Vince over here, boys. This is crazy.
Last month you mentioned as Russia continues to attack Ukraine, are you planning to impose any sort of sanctions?
Well, they're fighting against each other. Yeah.
They're fighting against each other. No. This is the problem, is this framing that Ukraine is somehow fighting against Russia. Ukraine is defending themselves. One country is on the defense. Now, obviously, they have offensive moves to try to push forward or whatever, right? But I mean, generally speaking, Ukraine is on the defense, not the offense. They're not just fighting each other. One is protecting their sovereign country.
I think we're going to have... We have a ceasefire on a lot of areas, and so far that's all held very well. And
no, it's not. Russia continues to violate this ceasefire.
Getting that ceasefire, they had a lot of guns pointing at each other. You had some soldiers, unfortunately, surrounded by other soldiers, and they are going to be, I believe, we're going to pretty soon have a full ceasefire, and then we're going to have a contract. And the contract's being negotiated, the contract in terms of dividing up the lands, et cetera, et cetera.
Dividing up the lands. This is insane to me. Again, this is the problem, is that Trump is capitulating to Putin. All that's going to happen is they're going to divide up land. It's going to be a temporary ceasefire, and we're going to be right back to this in a few more years. Okay? Putin is going to get his land. He's going to be like, cool, I got a little bit more land. And then he's going to try it again. And he's going to get a little bit more land. And he's going to try again. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
It's being negotiated as we speak.
What do you say to critics who say that your actions towards law firms amount to
So what she's referring to before he answers is Trump ended up going after certain law firms that investigated him. I believe helped with Hillary Clinton or something like that. But anyways, he's going after those law firms.
Well, the law firms all want to make deals. You mean the law firms that were going after, that went after me for 4 years, ruthlessly, violently, illegally? You mean, are those the law firms you're talking about? They're not babies. They're very sophisticated people. Those law firms did bad things. They went after me for years.
But what did they do legally? Like, what did they do illegally? I hope he goes after the ones that made up the fake go about Russia against him and drag him to the court for 4 years just to find out it was all made up. Goes after the ones that made up the fake about Russia. Brad, this is the funny thing is like MAGA is now cheering on lawfare. It's hysterical to me. Now they all of a sudden they now we want lawfare. Okay, get out of here. Left supports a mentally declined man. The left supports a mentally declined man. We're watching Donald Trump age before our very eyes. He's almost like 80 years old. And you can hear him. He's not very like coherent without this little script below him. He needs a teleprompter 90% of the time. And the moment that he goes off script, he ends up baffling or messing up everything, bumbling his way through.
Russia hoax. All a hoax. It was a hoax. It was Hunter Biden's laptop. It didn't come out of Russia, by the way. It was came out of his bedroom. It was all a hoax developed by Democrats, Hillary.
And keep in mind too, like MAGA is overplaying their hand right now. A lot of MAGA is like, look, we're in office, boys. Yeah, look at us. We won by a landslide. You won't be in office for like ever, unless by some weird act they end up, overturning elections or something like that. For the majority of it, you're going to be sitting there. You're going to be sitting there and having to deal with the Democrat president, and it's going to swing back the other way, and you may not like it. I'm not saying we're heading towards communism, but I think it's hilarious to me that Republicans are terrified of communism, yet they're playing as far right as they can. The pendulum is going to swing right back at some point.
I don't think Biden did, because I don't think Biden knows what that.
Munchie said needs a teleprompter. Trump is the definition of speaking his mind. He does. He goes off script a few times, but it's when he goes off script that it's like, he goes from this. He's like, all right, we're driving. All of a sudden he goes off script. He's like, ah! He just starts driving crazy. He's like, I can't control it. And it just goes nuts.
He's doing, frankly, based on everything.
We lived through 4 years of commie Biden. I don't even want to know what you think about this then. This has to be like authoritarian Trump or something. What's going on?
See, I've seen things since being here that are so sad. What he's done to this country, what he and they.
I think you're a little bit fair there too, Michael Rennick.
Surrounded him, who, by the way,
I do feel like it's kind of been one of those things where the pendulum was kind of going like this, and then it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, right? I think I probably would tend to agree with you. I mean, we could just look at a few of the we talked about, like the God, goodness gracious, what was it? Injunctions. The injunctions, how they increased exponentially. That's one marker you could look at and say, hey, the pendulum's kind of getting a little crazy over here.
A radical left, but smart. He's not smart. He's smart.
I go to bed dreaming of a commie Biden.
Radical left, smart people. They totally controlled him. He did whatever they told him to do. And it's a shame. It's so sad to
Project 2025 tells Trump what to do. Let's be very clear, right?
See what happened, what they've done to this country, both not only the inflation you saw, but allowing millions and millions of criminals into our country.
Nah.
That's an inexcusable act. And many other things besides that. Thank you very much.
Can we talk?
What a press conference, and what a day. It's been a week too. But listen, guys, we have a heck of a viewership right now, and I want to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for us getting to 1K subscribers. And this is kind of where we start to wrap things up. But first of all, guys, I appreciate every single one of you guys. I really do. It's been my goal. I've been streaming since August, really kind of pounding the pavement, trying to get there. So I appreciate every single one of you guys that got us to 1,000 subscribers. I really do. And even some of the trolls. Look, you trolls have helped put the radio signal out there. So thank you, trolls. Even the trolls in the chat, and even some of the deranged MAGA in the chat. Thank you for that. And we're going to continue to put content out. We're going to continue to put out some videos. This week has been kind of crazy, but next week we're going to hit the payment running on Monday. Monday, same time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, roundabout. Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Friday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Until I say otherwise. You can join the Discord and see some things there. But thank you guys so much. I pray that you just hit that like and subscribe notification bell. And we'll see you guys on Monday. By the way, one last notice. Monday, we should, cross my fingers, be monetized. Thank you guys again for allowing us to get to that point. And hopefully by Wednesday or Friday, we'll be monetized for our videos as well. Right now, we would only be monetized for super chats and things of that nature. So anyways, guys, listen, you guys have a great night. Have a great weekend. I will see you guys back here on Monday, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the Vince Wilson Show. Y'all have a great. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell to get notified of all future videos. And I hope you watch the next video. Thank you so much.